Welcome back to Your Average Witch, where once a month we talk about witch life, witch stories, and sometimes a little witchcraft. This month I'm talking with Geraldine Moorkens Byrne. We talk about the Irish language, sound magic, and about her new book about the sound of magic and Irish traditions, Draíocht. Now let's get to the stories. Ger, hello, welcome to the show.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me on.
It is my pleasure. Can you please introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are and what you do and where they can find you?
Well, my name is Geraldine Moorkens Byrne. I'm an Irish poet, writer. I teach Irish folk magic. I teach the use of poetry and kind of sound and different poetic forms in Irish magic and history. And I teach urban paganism as well. So I would define myself like sort of separately as a magical practitioner, but also spiritually, I'm an urban pagan. So I'm an Irish polytheist, to be exact. I live in Dublin, in Ireland. I live with my husband, my two children, and my wonderful mother, who is just turned 94. And I teach classes at the Irish Pagan School, which is a fantastic organisation based in Waterford here. So most of my classes and stuff are available there. And for the rest, you can find me generally online just by putting in Geraldine Moorkens Byrne. But my TikTok is at Draíocht Ceoil, because that's the name of my book. So Draíocht Ceoil means music magic, and that's an Irish phrase. But I'm on TikTok, and to be honest with you, if you Google my name at all, you'll get all the different links and stuff.
So I have a question for you. Is it like a school you can go to in person?
Not really. It's mainly an online resource. Although, like, I think more and more I could see like there being, events and conferences and stuff as they grow. But it's run by an Irish couple, Laura O'Brien and John O'Sullivan, and they are fantastic. And both of them put in like a tremendous amount of work. And a lot of what I do and what they do is very dovetailed, because we might have different views, but we're all coming at it from the purpose of invigorating indigenous Irish traditions and not recreating, because many of them never went away. They just, they evolve and they change and they grow. But it's very much based in our traditional resources, authentic scholarship. I mean, it attracts a wide range of classes and people. And there's also a lot of free resources there, free YouTube channels, free blog posts, everything. It's a great starting point for anyone getting into Irish magic, Irish folk traditions. If you're interested in the real Ireland rather than the mythologically created, romanticized version, it's like I want everyone to go and have a look at the stuff that's there. I'm very proud even to be part of it. So that's where I do most of my teaching.
Do you speak Irish?
Like most Irish people, I learned Irish since the day you go into school to the day you leave school, you have Irish. Unless you have like an issue with learning Irish, like dyslexia can be very difficult.
I bet.
It is. My son is dyslexic. And
you have so many more consonants.
He has an Irish exemption because it's too hard. But like most Irish people, I left school barely able to speak Irish. The way it was taught in the 70s and 80s was not conducive to loving the language or learning it properly. And I came away slightly, and there's a lot of colonial inheritance centered on this as well, because we were taught to despise our own language. And then it kind of became this, no, you will love your language. And it became like this, you must have the language. And so people got trapped in the middle of that. And we came out like wishing we could speak it, but feeling very ashamed that we couldn't speak it and having a love-hate relationship with it. And then as an adult, I saw so many people, new people coming into the country learning Irish, younger people just learning it for the love of it. And I went, okay, I'm going to learn to be better at it. I wouldn't say I'm fluent. I'm not a Gaeilgeoir. I'm not a fluent Irish speaker, but I would say in the last 5 years, I've gone from not really able to speak it properly. I could read it, but I couldn't speak it, to actually being able to engage with other people in the language. So that is like it's actually probably the thing I'm proudest of in the last few years, that I've done that, so.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, it is. But the revival of Irish here at the moment is incredibly exciting. And it's centered on young people and pop culture and rap groups and people using Irish just as part of their songs. You know what I mean? And there's a phrase in Irish called Is far Gaeilge briste no berle cliste. Better broken Irish than clever English. And I think
I
now
like
there are
that.
well, there are lots of people who are from a Gaeltacht area who speak Irish beautifully and perfectly and have all the grammar and the language, and they have it all at their fingertips. And then there's the rest of us who very much were kept on the outside looking in. And for us, that is such an encouraging mantra. And I have to say, I kind of apply that now across the board. I learned to sew recently. My wonderful sister-in-law, Debbie, she's great at teaching sewing. So I'm learning to use a sewing machine. And she keeps saying, perfection's the enemy of progress. And for me, like this whole thing, I'm kind of, these threads for me are, it is better to make the attempt than not, try. Eventually you'll get better. It doesn't matter how bad you are to start. You know what I mean? You will get better. So I'm applying this for Gaeilge Briste no Berle Cliste. I'm applying that now across the board in my life. Try it, go for it, do it. If you don't do it right, at least you tried. At least you got there. You did some part of it. So.
Oh, the perfectionism in me doesn't like that, but
Are you a
like
perfectionist?
it. I wish I wasn't, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm the Irish attitude to the enemy of perfectionism in Ireland is be grand. Ara, be grand. It'll be fine. Be grand. And you're kind of doing something, you're looking, because that's not perfect. And someone comes up to you and goes, Ara, be grand. Don't worry, be grand. And that's how, you go, yeah, I suppose it'll all work out.
Good.
You hate that.
I want to like it. The rational part of me is like, yeah, that's great.
The other part of you is like, no, go back, do it again, learn it properly.
You have to do it the right way. You have to. That's the rule. Otherwise, don't do it. Thanks, gifted program in the 80s.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, see, this is the tangent. That's how the tangents work.
I've never met a rabbit hole I'm not willing to throw myself headfirst down and explore.
So, can you tell me what the word witch means to you and whether or not you apply it to yourself, and if so, how?
Linguistically, no, I don't. But I like, if someone said to me, "Are you a witch?" as in, do you believe in witchcraft and magic and stuff? Yes, I do. But that isn't a word that really has a place in the Irish cultural spectrum. We didn't use that word. There were no witch trials here, and there are very, very few. I'm saying none, but there were a few instances. But they centred generally around either the Norman or the ascendancy of the Anglo Irish, and they centred in different. There was one or two kind of examples among the indigenous Irish, but it's not really a word we use, and it's not really used in the same way. The word I use or the phrase I use is ban feasa. Ban means woman, and feasa means of knowledge. And wise woman is what it would have been called in English. So if you grew up in an English-speaking area, people would talk about their local wise woman. If you grew up in a more Irish-based area, they would have called you a ban feasa, a woman of knowledge. And to me, that has more resonance because the ability to use like esoteric knowledge, to use knowledge that isn't like obvious and available and tangible and quantifiable, but it's still knowledge. It's not necessarily I know that there are people for whom witchcraft or magic, whatever, is tied up with their spirituality and with gods. But for most folk practitioners in Ireland, traditionally, that wouldn't be the case. It's about knowledge. It's about having a talent and a knack and an ability and having the knowledge to back it up. So personally, I would call myself a band feasa, or something in that line rather than witch.
Cool. I like different things. Do you have a magical practice?
I do. Primarily for me, I've spent my life kind of exploring the use of music and words, sound in magic. And that's a huge part of Ireland. Anyway, like music, sound, words. It comes from our very ancient past, and it comes from an era like pre-Christian era, and then right into the very early Christian era. We have a lot of documentation of how the poets and the musicians of Ireland, the roles that they played, and the huge influence that was given to them. And that has over centuries created, well, a culture that is very, very musical and lyrical. And we produce more than our fair share of poets and artists and singers and so on. But it also the magical traditions also survive, but they survived, in a folk magic way. Nobody is pretending that we are, recreating or even attempting to create the grand magic of the silly, the poets, we're not doing, but in folk magic, lots and lots of little things survived and they became a part of people's everyday life. So I personally use magic, and I use music and sound and an awareness of what different things like different sounds can do, different words of power, and how to kind of like use that to make my spell or to make magic from it.
How would that work? Can you share how that works?
Oh yeah,
Or walk us through?
Not a problem. I wrote a book. It's out on April 28th, so it's not like I'm keeping it secret. I'm trying to share it. There's literally in Irish culture, in Irish magical culture, if you like, in our folk magic, there is an awareness of, as I say, sound and the power of sound. So it manifests in different ways. But at its simplest, you could say, if you walk into a room in a house, or if you walk into a field out in nature, a nice wild place, there is a different energy in each place. You can actually hear the note, the sound of that place if you practice, if you sit, if you meditate, if you attune to it. You hear what's going on around you. By being acutely aware of sounds of nature, the sound of that man-made sounds, traffic, noise, everything. This is an energy that is constantly around you. And in Irish traditions, all magic is a natural energy. It's not something supernatural. It's part of nature. So as a practitioner, we try to teach, obviously, there has to be some element of, you don't have to be a great musician, you don't even have to be particularly musical, but you do have to love sound. You have to be able to lean into sound and have a natural affinity for it. But taking that for granted, you can use music, you can use natural sounds around you, you can use an awareness of how words build up. So you could have something as simple as a little charm that you're doing, and you're building that up. You would start with pitch, different pitches. And we know, like this was written about quite extensively in the old tracts, the old legal tracts, and the old literature that we have from the early medieval period. Different pitches have different powers. So high-pitched sounds invigorate. The middle sound is neutral and calm. Lower sounds can disturb and disrupt, and the lower you go, there used to be a note that they called the death note. That was the deepest note that could really, really harm you. And if you are constructing a spell, and a lot of people will sit down and they will naturally maybe make a rhyme or make a little, series of words that are put together. And a lot of the time, it could be hit and miss because they don't understand the power of the words that they are using and the sound of how they deliver it. You can amplify what you're doing. You can create a very, very effective, any charm, hex, healing spell, whatever. But if you understand the how to use music, how to use sound and words and the meaning of words, like as well all together, what you create is something far more effective. And again, being a folk magic practice, this is, this awareness of sound is something that you try to build up just all the time throughout your day. It shouldn't be something that you sit down and practice for like 15 minutes to one side. Oh, I will now put aside this time in which I'm going to be magical. This is something that is part of your, from the moment you wake till the moment you sleep. So there's all practice you can do, all these exercises you can do that are simply there to open up your awareness of sound. And once you begin to feel that energy and feel the power of sound around you and music and all of these things, it becomes very natural to use them when you're constructing a spell or when you're trying to do a magical working. And that leads you out, it opens up a whole different world of practice. It's also very useful in interpersonal relationships. You learn to hear, like you learn to speak with an authentic voice, and you learn to hear authenticity or falsehood in other people. And that was a huge part of our ancient kind of traditions, was how to know what was behind the words someone was saying. Words have more than one meaning, and how people use them. So all of this is part of Draíocht Ceoil. It's part of that magical practice. So for me, if I was sitting down with someone who'd never heard of it, I would start them very, very, carefully and slowly with tuning in, listening, and that is just taking it in until they hear that. Then they can begin the process of emitting, which is amok, bringing it out. You start after that, so you're limited only really by your own imagination and creativity.
My brain is blown.
Well, I hope that made some sense.
That's amazing.
Well, you'll be surprised how many people will just turn around and say, "Oh my God, I've always done that." There's a lot of it, because when you're trying to actually convey something to people, you have to codify it and you have to break it down and you have to put it into neat little boxes. And often people will just come to you and say, I never knew that, but I always, always do that instinctively. Humming. Humming's a huge thing in Irish folklore and folk magic. And if you go through any of the old folklore collection, ducas.ie, it's a fabulous website filled with the national folklore collection. And you'll have story after story involving humming. Sometimes humming drew the other folk to you. Sometimes humming is what got you out of trouble with the people. And there's all these things, and people will say to you, "Oh my God!" Like when I'm walking down the street at night, I hum. I hum to myself, and I don't even know why I do it. A lot of it is actually in us. We are wired for sound. We are there. It's in. It's just sometimes you need someone to lay it out in the step by step, and you go, "Oh my God, that makes sense. That's why I do it." But a lot of people do it instinctively. It's just like it sort of all becomes clearer when they read about it, but they actually have always felt it and sort of found their own way into it.
I'm a whistler. Which
Whistling.
I know people frown on, but I'm a whistler.
Well, whistling is, again, like humming. You have to be careful where you do it. On a dark road at night, just be careful. If someone whistles, don't whistle back.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Don't whistle back.
Yep, I grew up in Virginia around Appalachia, and that's a thing where they're like, you don't do that.
Yeah. Do you have the thing where if there's like a knock or a sound that sounds like a knock, you never say, even jokingly, "Come in"? And
I mean,
my,
I don't answer
my
my door in regular,
well, I,
actual,
you
like
know, I,
regular life, but I'm
no.
definitely not going to answer it to anything else.
Years ago, a friend of mine, we all shared a house, and his girlfriend was over, but she was from America. And we were all sitting around. It was kind of maybe 3 nights in, and we're all having beers. And there was a sound like that sounded for all the world like someone knocked on the door to the living room. And she turned around and she went, "Ah, come in." And everybody, literally everybody, shouted at her, "Don't say that." Oh, the poor girl. But like we were horrified. And then like she's looking at us going, "But why?" And you have to explain as an adult to another adult because
Things will get you.
because you don't know you don't know who
Yeah.
you're inviting. And we felt like, oh my God. She's like, but at the same time, we made her take it back. You know, we weren't taking any chances. And she goes,
Yeah.
no, no. So you see the power of words.
Man. Let's veer off in a completely different direction. What is the best advice you've ever gotten? If you'll share it.
Do you know, that's a good one. And I would say actually the best advice came from my parents, my dad and my mom. And it was, if you're out with somebody, if you're around someone, they could be your friend, they could be like someone trying to go out with you. It doesn't matter how they treat you. Watch how they treat the other people around you, the people who have no power or that they don't want to please. And my dad's way of putting it was, if you go to dinner, watch how he treats the waiter. And
Mm-hmm.
what he wanted was like, and my mom would be the same. She'd be like, you know, it's all very well if they bring you flowers and they're sitting talking to you and you're wonderful. But if they snap at somebody else and are rude to somebody else, your time is coming. And I have to say, in terms of life advice, it's the one that served me best my whole life. Just watch how they treat other people because that's who they really are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and yeah, it's an eye-opening thing when you're aware of that. And I have to say, I'm very grateful that they made me aware of it at a young age.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm not going to think about politics right now.
No, no.
What's the biggest struggle in your practice?
Oh, I would say for me now. Well, there's two, I suppose. One is in general, you know, when you're if you have something nice and neat and tied up in a bow that people can easily digest, um, that's grand. But when you're talking about real traditions, they're messy and they're nuanced, and you find yourself saying things all the time, like, you know, but not everybody does that. And, you know, it's hard, you don't want to just reduce everything down. But it's very hard then to explain what you're talking about because it becomes more complex. So I think my brain in particular, I go down a lot of rabbit holes and I get caught up in a lot of, sides, and I look at things and and sometimes I need to just stop myself and say, okay, it's not your job to explain everything. It's not your job to understand everything. Breathe,
Man,
breathe.
it's not your job. I know that life.
Ah, yeah, yeah. And I think, I would tend, for most of my life, I probably tended more towards the academic side of things. Like I have a tendency to lean into the research. I'm a research witch. You know what I mean? I tend to lean into oh, you have three sources for that? Let me find a fourth. You know what I mean? I love that stuff. And sometimes magically that actually is a roadblock. And I find there are times that I've had to just stop and go, stop it. You know what I mean? Do rather than theorize, practice, you know what I mean,
Oh,
and
yeah.
lean into the practice. And I have to say, every time I've done that, I have definitely come out the other side feeling like I progressed. And I think that for me, I can deflect a lot by trying to learn new things rather than actually sometimes sitting with the things I need to master, and until I, and actually just stop for a while and do that. But yeah, I think it's a combination of those two things. It's my brain. It's how it works. But sometimes you just have to stop and go, no, feel, practice, do, stop theorizing.
What brings you the most joy in your practice?
Oh, that's wow. My practice is joy. Do you know what? It really is. I love, I, I love words. I love sound. Do you know, I got out of the car the other day, and it was one of those days, when you're rushing and you're hassled, and you've a lot of things that you've kind of put yourself in a position to do, and there isn't enough day. And got out of the car, and there was a bird just singing. And I literally just stopped in my tracks. I can't explain it. It was like something just opened up. We're talking 30 seconds. Do you know what I mean? It was a little burst of bird song. And I just went, okay, that's it. That's magical. I can't make that noise. You know what I mean? That is magical. That is amazing. That is fantastic. And the fact that, like, I've spent so long opening myself up to sound, I find that music happens, joy happens, sounds happen, and it is an inherently joyful practice. So I have to say, yeah, just literally that ability to sometimes just stop in the middle of absolute noise and hear one thing and just go, that's beautiful. That's just, yeah, that's perfect. And then go on about your day, you know.
That sounds lovely.
It is. And I think if you live in the modern world at all, if you're not on some island in the middle of a desert now, we all need to be seeking out the things that do that for. Like, for me,
Mm-hmm.
that, as I say, comes through my practice, my sound. Like, somebody read me a poem the other day, just something they'd written, a couple of lines, and I just was like, oh my God. She's like, those two lines are perfect, and like literally repeating them to myself like for a day. If whatever brings you joy is very, very valuable, I think, at the moment.
Yeah.
No, come back from the dark. Come back from
Well, I was trying to phrase it the way that, because for me lately, it's just absurdities. I love them so much, and it just
Oh,
makes my heart better.
that's it. I think
Just
everybody
really
has to find.
dumb little things. Actually, I'll send you a picture of the one I'm thinking about because
Excellent.
we did a photo. My friend and I did an 80s photo shoot, and it's the dumbest thing in the world. And actually, that's why I was a little bit late coming into the room, the recording thing, because I got distracted by wigs
That's no
this
better
morning, just
excuse.
now.
See, you had me at 80s. You know what I mean? Because, like, I love the 80s. The 80s were my time.
Me
You know,
too.
I was a teenager. I think if you're a teenager in the 80s, oh my God, it was brilliant. Like, so
Yup.
if, like, someone said to me 80s photo shoot or any form of work, I would be at the 80s. I wouldn't even have to pause. I would be out,
Let's go.
rah leg warmers, neon
We wore
colors.
leg warmers.
Did you? Oh, I knitted a pair of leg warmers last year.
Ooh.
Yeah. Did you ever see something go nostalgia? I just wanted a pair of leg warmers, so
Mm-hmm. Yup.
love it.
Well, while we're on the topic of not witchcraft, tell me about your favorite meal. What you had, why is it your favorite, who was
Oh,
there, and why did you have that meal at that time?
wow. Well, food you know what? I'm lucky. I could pick 100. You know, I have had good meals with good people, and what that is one of my favorite things. At the moment, I have some health issues, and I can't eat a lot of foods, and I miss I miss that. You know, just sitting down and having a really nice meal and not worrying about it. Like I
Hmm.
can do it, but I'll pay for it. You know, so it's I try not to do it. But I will say, do you know, I would have to pick out a couple of weekends before myself and my husband got married, 18 years ago. We had, for our Christmas present to each other, because we got married in April, and for our Christmas present to each other, we bought ourselves an overnight stay in a really posh hotel in Wicklow called the Powers Court Hotel. And Gordon Ramsay had opened a restaurant there. And we said, we're going to go. And they called it like, I think it was like the Gordon Ramsay experience. So you didn't get to meet him or anything. You just got to eat the menu. But we said, that's what
Still.
we'll do. Oh, yeah, still. And we went and we had the most amazing room, suite. Like it was absolutely gorgeous. And we went to the restaurant and we had literally the best meal I have ever had in terms of like cooking and presentation and everything. It was fabulous. And I was sitting there with Mark and the two of us laughing and joking and having a great time. And we were surrounded by very, very serious couples,
Oh,
all all doing very serious couples. And one poor
sniffing
guy,
their wine.
oh, the whole thing. But one poor guy made the mistake of speaking out loud, and his girlfriend like took the face off him. Shh, be quiet, you know. And
Oh my
over at our
God, it's not
table,
a library.
well, myself and Mark are having a ball. Like we're chatting away. We're on first name terms with all the waiters. You know what I mean? We had such a good time. And the food was magnificent. I had the best duck I have ever had. It was duck three ways, like three kind of little confident duck, sliced duck. Oh my God. Do you know, I still think about it. That's how good it was.
I
I
love that
still,
kind of meal.
oh man, the best wine. Absolutely fantastic wine. We had a fantastic sommelier and a young fella again, and he was only thrilled to have two people who would actually talk to him, you know, and have a laugh and a chat. And you know, I sat there, and at one point in the meal, I looked at my husband and I went, "I'm marrying the right person. You know, I am marrying the best person." And here we are, knocking a bit of crack out of whatever, you know, the whatever is going on, whatever is around us, and I said, it never crossed our minds to perform couple, you know, to be there and look. And no, we just sat, we laughed, we talked, we drank. Oh,
Why
that
would
wine
you
was
spend
lovely.
all that money to be funereal about everything?
Well, that was the other thing because we were well aware of what this was costing us, and I was like, "Why would
If
you
I
come
would spend
here?"
that much, I'm going to have a good time.
Oh, I'm going to enjoy myself, you know, really and truly enjoy myself. I was like, and I'm now, God knows, like we weren't loud, you know what I mean? We're Irish, you know, you're not allowed to be loud in public places. And you know, but it was just, we had fun and we laughed. And you're just looking around at people going, you do not look happy. You do not look like you're enjoying yourself, the food, anything. Why are you here? You'd be
Yeah.
better off, you know, go down to the local
Stay
pub
home and
and
eat a cheese sandwich.
yeah. So
Earn
that's
your miserableness.
so I have to say for two reasons. It's like, as I say, in terms of cooking, that was absolutely incredible food. But in terms of company, you know, I just sat there going, "Oh, thank God I'm here with him. Thank God it's him." So I've never actually told him that. So if he listens to this, you'll get a compliment.
That's so good. That's so
Yeah.
good. What is something you wish was discussed more in the magical community?
Um, do you know, I think how hard things can be. I think there's a kind of a feeling that if you know, you see it sometimes when people are talking about maybe connecting, as I said, if I said to them, sit here and connect with the sound and feel the bass note of where you are. And if it doesn't happen immediately, that person feels, oh my God, I'm a failure. I didn't do it. Or I'm useless at this. And you see it sometimes when people are talking about spiritually, like connecting with deity or any of these things. Instead of going, this takes time and practice and trial and error, and you're going to have to find a way that works for you, and it is hard, and it is okay to find it difficult. There are no prizes, there are literally no medals for being able to do everything all at once. If it's something you don't understand, if there's something that isn't working for you, that's okay. It's not a failure. You are allowed to find things hard, and you are allowed to learn things slowly. And there are people who have spent years trying to do something and had very limited success at it. It's okay. Although some people will be faster, some people, bits of it will come more naturally than others, but it is okay to struggle, and it is okay to go, I don't understand this, I'm not getting it, and ask for help. You know what I mean? And not be made feel like that means you're useless and you shouldn't be able to do it.
The idea that it's okay to find things difficult is paradigm shifting. It hurts my brain.
It's that perfectionism again.
Good night. That's a misery. I didn't even realize I had that in there. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to bother me later.
I've ruined your day.
Nope, you just made it a lot more thoughtful. What two people have had the biggest influence on your practice?
Oh, that is hard, because I would say my dad, although he himself, I don't know that he would see it as something he practiced, but he did. Do you know what I mean? Like, I observed so much instinctively in him, in his ability to feel, and here you'd call it being slightly fey, just having that being tuned into things, having those little moments of like flashes of inspiration and so on. And I know he gave us all in my family. He gave us all a love of music and a love of sound and just a reverence for it. So like maybe kind of tangentially or indirectly, he was a huge influence on me. The other great influence, I have to say, has been, it's not actually one person, it's groups of people that I've dealt with over the years. I have friends from the very early days of the internet, what I mean? Right back, where you didn't know anybody, and you're online and you suddenly find someone who had the same input. And there was a group of us together, and I'm still friends with the core group of them. And there's one of them lives actually in Ireland now, Dean, and Gina is just one of my closest friends. And all of these people, it's not so much as an individual, but a group of people. And we would all probably have very different practices, and we'd certainly have very different, spiritual approaches. But these people very much provided me with a space in which to be myself. And I'm socially very awkward. Like, I'm really awkward. And I found suddenly that there were these people who didn't mind if I blurted out something, or if I went off on a nerdy fixation and blurted out for 10 minutes on some subject. They were like, okay, that's cool, that's grand, and they might reciprocate with their own. I can't tell you, that was my late 20s, early 30s. That was like, I was lonely, you know what I mean? Till that, I went, oh my God, I have a group now. I have a tribe, I have a little group. And those people got me through a lot, and that they know who they are. Don't necessarily want to be reading out a roll call of names without their permission. But we're the old core. We're the old core. And they were literally my support system for a very, very long time, and still are, like, in many ways. But certainly in terms of having a voice and trying to express what I believed and so on, they were a huge, huge help to me.
LiveJournal was like that for me.
Oh, I remember LiveJournal. I used to love LiveJournal.
Me too. I'm still like, I interact with people regularly from LiveJournal still.
We had an SQL form.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
So now that you've seen what it's like to talk to me, who do you think would have a good time coming on the show? Who would you want to hear answer these questions?
I mentioned her earlier, Laura O'Brien, that runs the Irish Pagan School. Now, Laura is very, very like accomplished, very learned, has a large, very solid academic background, but she's also, now she's a priestess of the Morrigan, and she would have a huge insight into a lot of Irish spiritual practices as well as, magical stuff. She'd obviously have her own kind of witchcraft magic path that she would follow, but you would enjoy her. You would really enjoy them. You would.
Cool. They are actually on my list of people that I want.
Go get them. Go get them. Absolutely 100%. And I think anyone listening would find it such an insight into, as I say, it's an exciting time in many ways, that like the reclamation of Irish traditions and indigenous traditions that's happening. And, we are in a post-colonial Ireland now. We're really coming into our own. And I think you would find that, Laura, they would bring a huge amount to the table, definitely. And John too. John's a bard. He's the only person I would actually say is really a bard, a modern version of that.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's neat. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about? Anything I didn't ask you? Anything you have going on? Did you have any questions you wanted to ask me?
When I talk about magic and that, what is yours? Because I'm just sitting here talking about myself, and I would love to know, what do you practice? What are your...
I'm a dirt witch, and I go outside and pick up rocks and sticks and stuff and say, hey, what can you do for me today? And then we go do it.
I like it. Yeah. Folk magic.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're there. That's cool. No, I'm having a great chat.
Yay. Do you have anything else we wanted to promote, or anything happening?
Oh, well, the big thing that's happening in my life at the moment is that I finally, a couple of years ago, sat down and wrote the book about Draíocht Ceoil. It's called Draíocht Ceoil, and Draíocht, I don't know, you can probably put this into the notes or something rather than me.
There will be links below, because I do not speak or spell Irish.
But it's Draíocht Ceoil. It's the sound of magic in Irish traditions, and it takes just a look at both the science behind it, how sound affects us, how sound is viewed, the effect that different notes and chords and so on always were taught to have on us, the Irish tradition, the early Irish roots of it, and then right through to how it was used as a folk magic and how it is used today, and then to make it more relevant, because as I say, academic, is grand, and I hope that people are interested in it. And I think it's important to understand where this comes from, but there's loads and loads of exercises pretty much from the first chapters in on how to do it. Do you know what I mean? To get you started.
That's what I like.
And they're really simple. Some of them are really simple, but when you've done them and you keep on doing them, the difference it makes is huge. So that is actually coming out on April 28th from Moon Books. Moon Books are brilliant. Massive kudos to them for not altering the title and allowing it to go out with an Irish language title on it. I don't know if I've ever thanked them enough for that. I'm sure it makes it more difficult to promote it, but it was really important to me that it was called by the correct name. And again, it's just, that little revival of our language, That's out on the 28th of April in the UK and the 5th of May in the United States. And that's
Well,
available.
this is actually going to air on the 28th of April.
Well, then it's
So,
out today. And I will be, when this airs, I will be somewhere sitting there going, oh my God, it just came out.
yay!
Well, hopefully, yay. And so that's coming up then. And if anyone is interested in like the other things that I do, or the class on Draíocht Ceoil, there is a class on Draíocht Ceoil at the Irish Pagan School. I teach, as I say, urban paganism. My website is called celebratingwords.com. But you'll also, that is because I write a lot of ceremonies for people, a lot of wedding, transition, even separation, divorce, naming ceremonies, all kinds of weird and wonderful things. And sometimes people just want a poem. They just want a poem written for an occasion. So I do all of that. And but as I say, the big thing that's coming out for me at the moment really is the book and all the attendant hoopla around it. So it was a labor of love, and it was like a long time in the writing. So it is a pretty weird but nice feeling. It's suddenly going to be out there in the world, and people can read it and go, "What is she talking about? What is she on about?" But
And they just have to practice it. It'll be fine.
That's it. But I'm on TikTok under the same title, at Draíocht Ceoil. So if they learn to spell the book title, they can find me on TikTok, and that is a bonus. That is a blessing for everybody. And I am a ray of sunshine on TikTok. So come find me there.
So I ask two things of my guests. Thing number one is, can you please recommend something to the listeners? It doesn't have to be related to witchcraft or magic at all. Just whatever new thing you found this week or this weekend.
My current
Tell people about
obsession: Chinese films and TV dramas on Netflix. Oh my God. Okay, so it started off with The Pursuit of Jade. And that is visually the most beautiful thing I think I've ever watched. The acting is beautiful, very nuanced, it's very different from Western style acting. So there's sort of, you can see traces of kind of Chinese theatre in that, there are certain tropes with the things that have to be said a certain way, but then it's very naturalistic. It's people talking, and these are historical kind of dramas. So they're set back in some like unnamed like dynasty, Tang dynasty era, and they are brilliant. Pursuit of Jade is one of the best things I've watched in years, and it has subtitles. Now, I'm a misophone. I have difficulty with sound. This is how I got into sound magic. I have acute sensitivity to sounds, and my brain often, if I was trying to listen to something maybe in French or German with subtitles, my brain is like, nah, you can have one or the other. No, not doing both. Chinese is so musical, literally, that I am sitting there just listening to the sound. You know what I mean? It's almost like background music, and I'm reading the subtitles. It is the only thing that I have forced myself to try to read subtitles for. It's brilliant, though. That is my current obsession. I cannot recommend it enough. Every night now, I turn my phone off, like I put everything down, and I watch it, because you can't take your eyes from the screen or you'll miss what's being said. And watch half an hour of it, 40 minutes of it, and it resets your brain. It's incredible.
That's cool.
Highly recommend.
It's also cool about the fact that you can listen to it, and that's cool.
That has never happened to me. My husband walked into the room. He said, "Why are you trying to watch subtitles?" Because he's so used to me like going, I can't. I literally can't. And I'm just like, it's working. Something's working.
That's neat.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you start hearing, if you start like hearing certain phrases and words, in the Chinese, and but it's such a beautiful language. It's such a musical, language. When you hear it being spoken over a period of time, you begin to get these rhythms and sound in it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that is literally, if you're sick of scrolling and doom scrolling and sick of the world, Pursuit of Jade, Netflix. And then there's once you do that, Netflix will start putting more in front of you. I'm now on
I
one.
kind of would like to have someone study that.
Oh, yes. Well, I know they're beginning to study misophonia. They're beginning to understand it as a literally. My husband likes to tell me it's a brain disorder, and I'm like, yeah, right. But it is, it's just this bit of my brain that is it's too switched on in one way, but the filters don't work. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, 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 but the filters other people have just aren't there. So I'm hypersensitive to everything, to people eating, breathing, tapping their fingers.
So you hate
Just,
ASMR too?
oh God, oh God,
It's
no.
the worst.
We have that Headspace app, the go to sleep. We have it for the kids,
Mm-hmm.
and I put it on, and I went, let's try this one.
Cringe out of the room.
Oh, I nearly ran. I nearly broke the phone. It's like, no,
Ooh.
no. Oh, I hated it, hated, hated. And I have such a violent reaction sometimes to, like to sounds I don't like. It's not like most people go, oh, I don't like that. Me, it's murderous. Like I hate it.
Yep.
I want to break it and make it stop. So,
Yeah.
but as I say, like there is now something. And do you know when people try to meditate as well? And do you remember thinking about people finding it very hard to connect? Meditation is one of those areas where people are trying to meditate. They go, I can't empty my mind. You don't actually have to empty your mind. That's nobody ever kind of explains like the kind of
Yeah.
nitty gritty, the mechanics of it. And I know, like, if I have music on, I can sit, I can go places absolutely fantastic. If I sit in a silent room, I can hear the electrical hum
Mm-hmm.
of something, and I'm like, what is that?
Or the
What is
clock
that?
that's downstairs in the kitchen.
Oh, the car door shutting 3 streets away. What was that?
Yeah.
What was that? So no, my brain needs, and then what if I need sound? I need it now, right now. But the minute my brain decides, no, we've had enough of that sound, I need the sound to turn off right now. And
Yep.
there's no like tolerance period. You know what I mean? It's like, no, now I'll just oh, it's a mad old brain, I have to say, but
It's a lot. The second thing that I ask is, will you tell me a story? It can
but
be
like
like a folklore type of story that you grew up on, or it can be a story from your life that you like telling.
I'll tell you a story. This is a story. My dad's family. My dad is a Dubliner, was a Dubliner, as I am. But my dad's family originated in Wicklow, and he grew up. He grew up an inner city boy. Like he grew up in the inner city of Dublin. He was born on the north side, which makes him a true Dubliner. And yet he spent his summers in Wicklow on the farm with the Wicklow side of his family. And he told me this story. And then years later, I found variations of it from Wicklow in the National Folklore Collection. And I remember just sitting there going, oh my God, I can't describe it. It was like, my dad told me this story and it's in here. But the story is about a young man who has a dream. He dreams every night for years that he is to go to London and he's to go to a particular grand building on the side of the Thames, and he will find gold if he does this. So he saves up and he saves up and he works day and night. He buys a suit and he buys a ticket for the boat. And he gets the train to Dublin, he gets the boat to Holyhead. He works his way across Wales to London. About a year later, arrives in London. He goes to this place along the River Thames. He goes to this magnificent building with these statues, and he stands there going, right, the gold must be here. And as he waits, a man comes up to him and says, excuse me, says, you wouldn't be from Wicklow, would you? And the young fellow goes, I am. He goes, I keep having this recurring dream about a young man that comes here from Wicklow. And I'm to tell you, the gold is at home under a bush in your garden. And the young fellow goes, oh, and he leaves London and he comes all the way back to Wicklow, and he goes to his little house and he goes into the back garden and he digs under the bush and he finds not one bag, but 2 bags of gold. And the moral of the story is twofold. But my dad used to say it was triple. The first is that you'll often go far, far away to find the very thing that is at home. The second is that sometimes to appreciate the thing that is at home, to understand it, you have to travel and go very far away. And the third thing my dad used to say to me was, and that also means if you looked properly the first time I asked you, you'd have found it. So,
Of course, that's thrown in the end.
yeah. And you'd have
Good
listened
story.
to the story.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. So that was one of my dad's old stories that he obviously someone told him, and someday when he hadn't found whatever he was told to look for, he obviously got that. So he passed it on.
That was so good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know how this will work out because our practices are different, but will you try and craft a spell with me?
I will. What type of spell and for what?
I don't know. We always just sort of waffle around that every time I ask this question. We're like, I don't know. What should we do? It's spring. It's almost summer. We could do something to do with spring or cleansing or protection or...
Absolutely. And well, Beltane is made first, which is the traditional start of summer. And Beltane is, I mean, the fire festivals are always about cleansing, protection, getting out there. That transition, that liminal space between one season and the next, crossing over. So there's all those things. I think if you're doing something kind of generalized, like it's not for a specific person or a specific event, it's nice to kind of do a general well-wishing. You know what I mean? A general...
Mm-hmm.
Like bring some joy, bring some peace. So, I mean, if I were doing it, I would start off playing with the words that we want. So, what is it we want for people? That's how I would start. Like, what are we wishing? You know what I mean? What are we bringing? So, how would you kind of start the process?
If I wanted to do just have it be good, like it's good things, I would say love. And for that, I would there's a rose bush that I would go grab some out of my my herb garden. I just planted a jasmine bush.
Oh,
and
yes,
it's actually flowering for the first time right now. And that's just because the smell is lovely and I would add some of those flowers.
Yes, yeah.
There is a plant called brittle bush here that is almost impossible to kill, but it has really pretty yellow flowers. So I would pick some of those because I think endurance is something that's good.
Yes.
And so definitely. I would ask all of those things to work together. And then once I had that, I would stop and start again. What do I need to make this happen? And then I would go out more. And then if I was working with somebody else, I would say, okay, this is what I have.
Yeah.
What's next?
You've brought in like these tangible things, these the flowers and the earth and the actual tangible objects. So what I would bring to the table then is, as I say, words and music and sound. So we're at the moment in the world, you are taking people from quite a low place. So to construct this in my practice, you would start with that pitch, that lower, almost like a hum, like down deep. And then bring it up higher and higher to a happy, more joyful place. And the words that I would play with, like there's an Irish word, blothanna, and that means flowers. And I think that's a lovely word. It's a lovely, fat, vowely kind of word. And I think if you had something like words that kind of were like, we're bringing these flowers, we're putting this out there. Do you create any kind of shape with the flowers? Do you put them into like a bowl or a circle, or?
Usually I grind them all together with other stuff.
Oh, so you make like a
I'm a big powder girl.
powder. And then would you throw it on the tin on the fire?
Probably. I
So
burn stuff a lot too.
We have like incense, and we have smoke, and we have the tin, as I say, the fire. We have flames. We have light coming, and so we celebrate Beltane on the evening before. All festivals in Ireland start at night and lead into the dawn on the day. So we're talking like the 31st of May, we're talking about, or the 1st of May, the 30th of April into the 1st of May. So I would be feeling, here we are in the dark, and we stand before you. And we have the land beneath our feet and the sky above our head. And that's all we need, because we do not know what is ahead. And we have flame and we have fire, and that brings warmth and that brings light. And we know that the new dawn of Beltane waits at the end of the night.
To hear more of the members-only episode, head over to crepuscularconjuration.com. The monthly magic tier gets access to the Marco Polo group and the written monthly spells. You also get bonus podcast episodes, coloring pages, guided meditations, spellcrafting videos, printable downloads, and a lot more. There's even free stuff. The Witchy Wonderment tier will give you free samples of everything I just mentioned. You can also visit my shop, Clever Kim's Curios, to get spell boxes, one at a time or by monthly subscription, intentional handcrafted jewelry that I make especially for witches, and handmade altar tools. You can even listen to the full Your Average Witch podcast library, including show notes and transcripts. Check it out at crepuscularconjuration.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of Your Average Witch. You can find us all around the internet, on Instagram at Your Average Witch Podcast, at www.youraverageWitch.com, and on your favorite podcast feeder. If you'd like to recommend someone for the podcast, like to be on it yourself, or if you'd like to advertise on the podcast, send an email to YourAverageWitchPodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next Tuesday.